Okay, hey everyone. This is the next Lumina podcast in the series, and we're here with Kathleen. Hello, Kathleen. How are you?
Hello, I'm really well, feeling light and bright and ready just to see where this all goes.
Oh, nice. You look like you have a sense of radiance coming through the screen.
Great. I think it's
Matches the
probably the beautiful sunlight coming in, but I'll claim that.
Yeah, cool. Um, yeah, so I wanted to perhaps start if this sounds okay with you with yeah, a little bit about your journey with meditation. I know that you're very deep on the Vedic path, or I know that you teach it at least. So I'm assuming that there's
hmm
a certain depth to that. But I'd love to, yeah, just start with a little bit of understanding of what is meditation to you and where did it all start?
Yes, well, Vedic meditation has probably been the central point of my journey over the last 10 years, really. Um, and I came to it, I always say, actually, out of curiosity. And that tends to be how I find all of the modalities or interests that I place a lot of attention on and, integrate into my day. There's just a sense or a feeling, a curiosity. I'm like, okay, great. But Vedic meditation has been the one that has been the foundation of everything that's emerged from there. And I was early 20s and had finished high school, traveled for a year, and I guess I was seeking or desiring a little bit more of a deeper experience of life. And I was like, surely there's a little bit more here. What is this thing called life? We can just asking all of these questions. And simultaneously, I was going through a really big chronic health journey. But that's not why I came to meditation, funnily enough. But through that, I guess I was seeking different health modalities, mainly through seeing a naturopath, doing a lot of body based healing. And during this time, I was spending so much time by myself. I would jump in our family van and just drive. I'd look at a map and see where there'd be like a patch of green, mostly in Victoria, which is where I'm based, and just drive there and walk in the bush, camp. I'd just sleep in the boot of the van. It wasn't even a decked out van. I'd just be in a little ball and really just spending a lot of time by myself. Also, I was studying naturopathy at the time. And so, yeah, I was desiring at this point also community. It's like, okay, and who are the other people desiring these things and wanting these conversations? And I was doing some personal development work with this really beautiful woman, and she'd often give me resources of things to explore, a little bit more. And when someone gives me something to do, I generally do it. And so I was just doing all the things, just ravenous and absorbing all of it. And on our very last session, she said to me, I've just learned this beautiful meditation technique, which is with this really lovely woman. She lives really close to you. Here are the details. And
Mm.
again, that feeling, that spark and that curiosity was really there. And I looked her up right after the session. And she was, 10 minutes down the road. And she had a course. This was a Friday afternoon. She had a course starting on the following Tuesday. And normally with Vedic meditation, you can sign up and do an intro talk or a discovery call and, find out what it's actually all about. And I didn't do that. I just emailed her and said, I'd like to join your course on Tuesday. I signed up and I did it, and haven't missed a day since doing that practice. And
Wow.
so yeah, I'd say in the beginning it was a practice of discipline. As I said, I was in this phase of healing where I was told something to do and I would do it. And my life was
Mm.
very restricted, particularly in foods and, what I was able to do because of big inflammation and sensitivity and chronic health issues in my body. So I was in
Mm.
this quite I suppose I look back on it now, it was a little bit rigid. And it was probably coming more from a place of discipline, but it meant that I did it. And It
Mm.
meant that I was showing up every day, twice a day. Vedic meditation is 20 minutes twice a day. And through that, it just became a non negotiable in my day, and became the foundation of everything. And so much so that it was really catalyzing and helping everything I was already doing, particularly the body based healing stuff, through naturopathy.
Mm.
Adding that mind based relaxation practice in. So I said I hadn't created that connection that it would be a self healing tool, funnily enough, but it became that a really, really powerful self healing tool. I started to experience these profound benefits both in my health and, joined this beautiful community, was absorbing this beautiful Vedic wisdom that was like this
Mm.
knowledge of life that helped me feel so connected to life, so part of life. Life became easier, more of a flow. So the benefits I was experiencing were more, what emerged was a practice of devotion. And I just couldn't
Mm.
think of anything that I would rather do, for myself and my community, my friends, my family, but show up to that practice every single day. So
Mm.
from there, I was just ravenous, and I kept showing up to every single thing my teacher put on. And I always say to her, to
Mm.
the point where I was like, is she getting sick of me? Like, maybe I should just not attend something just in case. But that wasn't the case at all. But I,
Wow.
I came to every advanced, training and teaching she put on. I went to India. I just studied all of this alongside naturopathy as well. So somewhere along the way in it,
Mm.
I graduated as a naturopath. Um, and then
Mm.
I was in India with my teacher, and we were walking up in the Himalaya in Manna, the last village of India, this beautiful pilgrimage. And she was talking to this
Mm.
other woman, and I heard her say, "Yeah, I'm gonna do a training for Vedic meditation teachers." And again, that feeling, that spark, that curiosity came. I was like, "Oh, that would that feel I feel that." But then straight away the
Mm.
mind came in, yeah, but you can't do that. You don't know enough, you're not good enough, you could never do what she does. And so I kind
Mm.
of let it go, but that feeling never left. And in the end, 3 months before the training, I signed up in a what felt like a choiceless way, where I went, okay, fine, here we go. And I surrendered to that, quit the 2 clinics I was working at as a naturopath, 4-year degree, very large HEX debt to the side, which obviously I still use all of that knowledge, but I just stepped fully into the unknown, to something that was big and, scary.
Mm.
And I did the 3-month training in India and have been doing that full time ever since. And that was 7 years ago.
Wow. That is such a beautiful sort of display of all of the different sequences that I think can happen when someone chooses maybe to follow their intuition or something that's calling them. I remember,
Yeah.
I used to work in management consulting in a sort of a corporate setting. I ended up leaving
Mm.
that job. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and also some physical symptoms as well at the time. I ended up going to see a kinesiologist. I didn't really know what that was. It sort of felt like a bit of a risk for me at the time, but I decided to do it because I felt like I really needed help. And then I was so sort of moved by the experience that I had there, and and I remember I spent like almost the whole session in tears. Like, and that was a big
Mm.
thing for me, right? Like, that was a big thing. I'd been so anxious. All of that energy was coming up. I didn't know it was energy at the time, but
Mm.
like, basically, to go a little bit further with that, I ended up feeling this sense of that spark. You mentioned that spark. Like, I ended up deciding through a
Mm.
conversation that I had with someone who was just at a music festival, feeling really open, like, oh, what could happen here? And I realized, sort of suddenly realized that that's something I could do. It's like actually something that I could do with my life. I could actually study kinesiology, like this thing that really, it was so
Mhm.
foreign to me at the time. And that
Mhm.
really resonates with me what you're saying about the spark, right? It's like, oh my God,
Mm,
there is a spark. You know, I think there's a spark. There's sparks. Some of them are bigger than
mm,
others. Yeah,
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, in the Vedic worldview, the word we use for this is charm. And I really love that word. And so often you hear us say, does it feel charming? And it's like this feeling that's like evolutionary, forward moving, expansive, creative, like, but then a lot of the time what quickly comes in, as I said, is the mind, really arising from the stresses in the body, the past experiences that have kind of locked us into one way of being, that go
Mm,
like, could you really do that? You don't have enough money. You're too young. You're too old. You've just spent 4 years studying naturopathy. You've got this massive debt. Why would you do this? You could never run your own business. You could never do what your teacher does. And all of that chatter comes in. And that's when we tend to listen to that, propaganda of stress that's so convincing,
mm,
and it's so convincing to maintain the status quo. And so it can be really hard to step into that charm, to that spark, to that curiosity. And the thing about charm is that it doesn't mean that it's always easy to. It
mm,
begins as that creative, beautiful idea, and you had that at that music festival and going, oh, I could do this. And it starts like that. It's like, wow. But then along the way, it can be also, full of surrender and, bring up all of this deep stuff that we have to face. And, it's part of our liberation. It's delivering us our freedom, but it doesn't mean that, things that are charming are going to be easy along the way. I think that's sometimes
mm,
where people can misperceive that and go, well, I must have messed up in some way because this is actually really hard.
mm.
And often it can be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to get into the maybe nuts and bolts a little bit more of Vedic meditation because there's been a few people in my life who I really admire. I really admire their sort of, uh, their, maybe their stature, the practice is deep. You know, I really feel they're resonant with something greater.
Mm,
And there's a few, these people, they've all been like, wow, Vedic meditation has changed my life. Like it is so big, it's been such a big thing. And
mm,
I'm like, wow, that's
mm,
super cool. Like I don't know much about it. Like how would you sort of
mm.
speak to what it is?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I'd say the same. It has been the modality that has, yeah, delivered me to greater states of freedom, surrender, joy, love. Yeah, I really attribute that to, a lot of the goodness that I experience on a daily basis now, along with other things. Meditation is
Mm,
no, silver bullet, no magic bullet here. And there's been many modalities that have become part of my life. But as I said, it's the foundation that I have there every single day, twice a day.
mm,
So Vedic meditation, it's known, technically as an effortless transcending technique, which really just means it's a easy letting go practice. And yes, actually, it was Monday night. I was running a refresher session, which are these sessions that we run monthly to re-inspire, reignite people's meditation practice, because it's one thing to come along and learn meditation, but a whole other thing to actually sustain a practice. So a big part of what we do is offer a lot of community support on a weekly basis. People come resit the course as many times as they want for free. So the refresher sessions are part of that.
mm,
And we were speaking about all the resistances that come up to practice, and people having agitating experiences, thought-filled experiences, knowing it's good for them, and then still not doing it anyway. And we kind of had this chat, and I let everyone speak, and I got everybody to say the issue they were having with their practice out loud. When I'm meditating, I'm just sitting there thinking, meditation at the moment is feeling really agitating, or I feel so full that I can't even imagine meditating. And then
mm,
we said, no problem. And I said, maybe instead of calling this, meditation, maybe we could use a different word for now, is like digestion time. And I was making
Mm,
this, slightly crass joke about how we're all constipated on life, and that meditation is, it's processing time, it's digestion time. And so it's a transcending technique, a letting go technique, but I'd say really where it is so healing and really starts to shift things for people on a deep, deep level is through the deep rest that happens in the nervous system, which
mm,
allows us to finally process, digest the years and years of past, poorly processed past experiences, our stresses, the fatigue, the impressions that we know are all living in the nervous system. Even though they're historical events, it's living in the nervous system as neurochemistry, hormonal imprints, shaping the nervous system, dictating our
mm,
future.
mm,
So in Vedic meditation, the kind of nuts and bolts of it, we practice 20 minutes twice a day, sitting comfortably with the eyes closed. You receive a mantra to be used in practice, but funnily enough, it's not considered to be a mantra-based meditation because the idea is to forget the mantra, for it to be
mm,
said so faintly, so sweetly, so softly that it disappears. And so really when we're practicing, what gets experienced or what emerges is an experience beyond the thinking mind, an experience of more subtle layers of life, and an experience beyond the mind altogether, which in our tradition we say is being. But there are many words, many names for the same one state, and maybe people would know that as, the self, Atma, witness, pure
mm,
awareness. Quantum physics would say the one indivisible whole unified field of consciousness, if you want to say that one. Muji, a beautiful teacher, calls it the isness. Eckhart Tolle says the witness. So many names for the same state, but giving us that direct experience of a much, much deeper layer of life on a daily basis, as well as initiating the relaxation response in the body, shifting us into a parasympathetic state where, as I said, we can finally, process, digest the legacy of stress that lives in our body
mm,
that's dictating our future. So it's the feeling of it, how I like to describe it. It's very easy. It's very gentle. It's very nourishing, relaxing. And where it's quite different to a lot of other meditation techniques is that we don't use focus, concentration, or control. It's all about letting go. It's all about surrendering, accepting, allowing, being with whatever is occurring in your meditation
mm,
practice, which includes, a lot of thinking a lot of the time. And so one of the resistances and I guess, challenges people have and why they resist finding a meditation practice is they'll say things like, I've tried meditation, but I just can't stop thinking. It doesn't work for me. I'm bad at
mm,
meditation. But within this practice, we're taught how to be with thoughts and that actually it's a wonderful thing and it means you're letting go of stress. So there's no need to try to stop thinking.
mm,
Instead, we're working with the mind, the nature of the mind. So there's really no wrong. And so I find people often reflect and feel like it's quite a nourishing, safe practice that they're like, oh, great. And it feels really nice to do, which is what I'd say is really important with any kind of practice, a practice that you'll fall in love with.
mm. Do you go into your day and do you bring that practice like in your day to day, or do you find that it's more restrained or sort of constricted around the time that you have for sitting specifically?
Mm. So, the practice itself, and the way that we describe it, how we do it, it is an eyes closed, sitting down still practice. But one of the things I always like to share is that really it's not about the meditation itself. As I said, it's digestion time, processing time, and beautiful experiences can emerge. Cognition, creativity, pure bliss, feeling unbounded, expansive. But that's not the point of it. And so, eyes closed, you just let go and see what happens. And the more we can practice willing surrender, being
Mm,
fully okay, being a full yes to whatever's occurring, the easier the
mm,
practice feels. But where we really place the value of our practice is what starts to shift and change, eyes open. And this is
mm,
where, people really start to see things changing. And so it's quite profound. Like, it's so simple, but it still blows my mind 10 years on of how profound the changes are. And what we're learning eyes closed through a transcending technique, which is basically teaching us how to let go, how to surrender, how to accept, how to allow. First, you learn that learn that eyes closed through the practice, and then you find that you naturally start to do that eyes open as well. And so
mm,
it does translate to life. That's the whole point. It's all about shifting and changing our eyes open experience for the enrichment of life, to live a more joyful, playful, grounded, free life. That's the point of this practice, not to just be a master of meditation, though. If that's your thing, absolutely go for it. So, where we really see the fruits of our practice is in our eyes open state. And over time, what I've noticed for myself and I see in students is there's less contrast between meditation and life. And it actually just becomes this one 24/7 eyes open, spectrum. And that's the point, really. It's not to only experience relaxation and freedom and bliss eyes closed, but to understand that, to integrate that, to directly experience that when we meditate, and discover that that experience is not exclusive to meditation, but
mm,
transcendence is actually, in fact, the underlying field of all of life, and it never fades. That bliss,
mm,
that freedom, it never fades. It's just that our awareness does. So the more we meditate, the more we integrate that experience, transcendence becomes our 24/7 eyes open experience of life. And having that there, never leaving, you know,
mm,
that's freedom.
mm. Wow, where can I get some of that? That sounds great.
I mean, I'm biased, but I really do think it's pretty phenomenal. And, and for it to be done in community as well. I run weekly group
Yeah.
meditations here in Castlemaine, and every week someone says, oh gosh, it's nice to meditate together, to sit silently, but still have such an intimate experience. And we create this group coherence, this group harmony. And as someone starts to relax and transcend, the whole group starts to settle in. And yeah, it's
Mm,
quite beautiful. So yeah,
mm,
that's been one of my really, I've been so grateful for the community that I've found through Vedic meditation. You're not just out there
mm,
on your own giving it a crack. You it's a lifetime membership, and you come along and our hands are reaching out saying, come, learn, we've got you. You just have to grab that and show up.
I love that. And when you say community, that sparked my interest because I think that we're in this time, or at least for me, I'm sort of moving into this space of connecting more and more with community and having more of a reason to say like, okay, I'm here. And in the past, maybe I used to retreat and move into a space of
Mm.
sort of being with myself. And at some point, I think, um, that wasn't really, helping in some way, or I was sort of feeling this urge to go and start to be in relationship with other people. And I wonder if you feel, is that something that is missing today in the world, or is that, sounds like it's strong for you in your Vedic community, but what are your
Mm.
thoughts on community and coming together like that?
Oh yeah, massively. We live in a world where in one way we're more connected than ever, where I could, pick up my phone and talk to my mum 2 hours away, or talk to a friend in the UK right now instantly. You're in Perth, I'm in Victoria, yet we're having this conversation. Like, the ways we can connect are quite profound these days. It blows my mind, technology. Yet we're feeling more disconnected, and stress is on the rise, disease is on the rise. There's so much harm and imbalance in the world. And so I'd say we are definitely, going through a period where disconnection it's everywhere. And we know that we are wired for connection. It's just like, it's a biological inherent need and desire. Like, it's actually a need. We know what happens to infants that don't experience connection, right? Yet we haven't really placed that much attention on, how to relate to ourselves, first of all, and then how to relate to other people, so it can feel foreign and all of these things. So I'd say what's needed is a lot more connection, a lot more community, and for it to feel really safe. But a lot of the time it doesn't. But it's such a cultural story right now. We live very isolated lives, and we've lost that community basis. Where, imagine, where I live here, if we only, the entire street, there was one washing machine, one oven, and we'd have to like go to that person's place, say, oh, I need to do my washing today, and subsequently we have a conversation. Or that person has the car we use, and we speak to them on the way. But instead we live in our own little boxes with our little family. We have one of everything, so we don't tend to go out and commune and connect. And I feel like it has it's having a really a big effect on the collective.
Yeah, that's really interesting. For me, one of the focuses I've had lately is moving more into an entrepreneurial sort of lifestyle, I suppose. And what I've noticed with that is that it has given me the chance to move very quickly. Like, I'm moving really quickly in my day-to-day life. And it's starting to, I noticed that it comes at a cost. Like, that speed comes at a cost of maybe a sense of disconnection, or a sense of disassociation with how my body's feeling in the moment. Where am I? Am I around people? Can I connect with those people?
Yeah.
And I wonder if you feel that, what do you think of the speed of things? Is that something you're observing as well? Or do you feel that's this bubble that I could be in?
No, I'm definitely observing that. And I finished our newsletter this morning that I titled Building Our Capacity to Go Slow. Why we resist meditating, why we resist going slow. So yes, very, very relevant. And this is it, this is the piece. And again, we're all these, little individuals operating also within this cultural soup that's like influencing us on a daily basis. And the cultural narrative, and a cultural narrative we get rewarded for, is keep going, you got to get things done. It's all about doing, it's all about productivity, efficiency. And we get rewarded by, we make money, or we get praise, or, we get status. And so part of us goes, oh, okay, that gets me love. Or whatever the story is. So we continue to operate in this pattern that is, going, never stopping. As you said, you can go through your entire day and you haven't taken a deep breath. You haven't looked at the sky and witnessed the sun. You haven't looked in someone's eyes and given them a smile. You get to the end of the day, you're like, wow, I'm really exhausted, and I'm really, really full. And so incessant doing or incessant thinking, it really is arising from the state that the nervous system is in. I'm studying polyvagal theory as well at the moment, which is this like such a beautiful body of knowledge. It's all about the autonomic nervous system. And would say that, the nervous system is responsible for our entire experience of life, which is, a big statement, but it's so true. Yet nobody taught us how to operate this vehicle that is actually governing how we're experiencing ourselves, the world, and other people on a daily basis. And where our nervous system is residing on a daily basis is giving rise to the sensations we're feeling, we're having, the feelings we're having, the thoughts we're having, and the behaviors we're having. And we can really either be dysregulated or regulated. And it's not about trying to stay regulated all the time. That's not possible. But we spend a lot of time in dysregulation. And there are different kind of states that we can go into depending on, how long the stress has been going on for, how big the experience is, the stressor, the trauma. But one state that I'd say a lot of us are really familiar in hearing about is the fight or flight system. And one of the symptoms of being in fight or flight is incessant doing. Where when we're in fight or flight, the sensations we might feel in the body is a lot of energy. We feel a bit shaky. Maybe that's like where anxiety lives in the body. The feelings we're having is like, I just, I don't feel safe. Or maybe we're feeling angry. Maybe we're feeling, we don't trust the world. We're not feeling safe in our bodies. The thoughts we're having in, a fight or flight situation is like, I can't stop. I've just got to keep going, and then the behaviors that we engage in are generally not stopping. For example, meditators going, I don't have time to meditate. I've just got to keep going. We've got to recognize where our nervous system is in that moment, which is dictating the choices that we're making. And so we live in a world where fight or flight or stress has just been so normalized to the point where it's just like who we think we are, right? We don't acknowledge, or we're not aware of the fact that we're actually a lot of the time living a very habitualized underlying state of fight or flight, and it's driving our thoughts, it's driving the behaviors, the choices we're making for ourselves. And one of those choices would be not stopping, not resting. And it feels, when you're in a fight or flight state, it can feel really uncomfortable to stop, and to finally look at what's there, to feel, feeling can be really overwhelming. So we have to move in tolerable steps, not to overwhelm the nervous system. But, I'd say we're living, there's a pandemic, an epidemic of stress. And stress means a lot of doing, a lot of activity, and not a lot of stopping.
Yeah. That reminds me, in WA, there's this Buddhist center, the Buddhist Society of WA, and they have a temple or a place where people can go pretty close to my house, and which is amazing. And I went there, and I've been listening to one of the head monks, Ajahn Brahm, and he sort of said something in a talk that I was listening maybe a month or two ago. He was talking about how it's like, Ajahn Brahm, why are you teaching about this, slowing down and doing these things to be more calm? And he said, in the West, we're very good at making progress. We're not so good at finding peace. And I was like, wow, that's pretty much the story of my life. That's how I live my life. I feel like I've developed this capacity to make progress, and sometimes that feels hard. Sometimes I feel like I'm in competition with myself, or what maybe I think is the outside world. And so I'm in a state of resistance, but then also giving myself the chance to drop into that place of it's okay if I don't have to play out a wound or be this person that needs to achieve something. I can potentially receive the same sense of nourishment from just going, hey, to myself, I love you. I You know, I
Mm.
think you're worthy. It's okay, whatever you're feeling, it's okay. You know, and I think there's that deep
Mm.
Adyashanti, who's a spiritual teacher, he calls it the core wound of unworthiness. Like there's this
Mm.
core
Yeah.
wound in, maybe in the West, maybe it could be broader. Um, Potentially, I
Mm.
think he does say that it's broader than the West, but it's this wound of, you know, I'm inherently broken. I'm inherently not enough. And I think that it
Mm.
is in the collective. That's my
Mm.
observation. It's in the collective. That's sort of my sense that it's
Mm.
bigger than my experience. Uh, I mean, I'm sure that it is on at least some level. And I think
Mm.
that there's maybe a correlation between that and our nervous system and this predicament that we find ourselves in with stress and with speed.
Yeah.
And I almost just want to like
Yeah.
be like, hey, everyone, like, I love you. It's like, it's okay. It's okay to just like, just be who you are. You know, we are in our humanness. We're in our sort of sense of
Yeah.
humanity, and it's not going to be, you know, it's not about victory all the time, or, you know,
Mm.
it's not, that's not the
Mm.
key here if we want to be well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And for me, when I, discovered that and discovered my own imperfections and my stories that still exist to this day, of course, like I'm constantly witnessing those, constantly seeing those, but being with that and offering those parts of myself a lot of compassion and a lot of love and space to create new possibilities out of those stories. And for me, what emerged from that was a lot of compassion for life and the human experience right now and other people, and knowing, I think we're at like 8.2 billion people in the world, and that's 8.2 billion realities, 8.2 billion stories, that we all have. And what we really need is a lot of compassion for that, and just to, be with that yourself, and then from there have the capacity to go, gosh, what's it like to be you? And to understand that, and just to start to see the integral threads, that we're all this integral thread of the tapestry of life contributing to our collective consciousness, and what contribution do we want to make. And
Mm.
in the Vedic worldview, we have this Sanskrit term called pragya parad, which means the mistake of intellect. And it's, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. It's the intellect and the conclusions that we make about ourselves and the world. And then, it definitely relates to the nervous system, because we then create these stories, and we go out in the world and we find circumstances to confirm them. Like, see, yeah, I'm not good enough. Oh yeah, there was that time I only got a B on that essay. So yep, see, not good enough. And we confirm that for ourselves.
Mm.
And I remember years ago hearing my teacher say that the number one pragya parad, this mistake of intellect that we make, or this real root cause of all suffering, of all disease, is the idea that I am separate. And at the time it didn't land, I'm not going to lie. I was like, that's not what I thought it would be. I was like, okay, I'm separate. What does that mean? But over my journey, I come back to that, and I'm like, oh, wow. And I see that, and I feel that for people. I feel that for myself, how that,
Mm.
that mistake of intellect that becomes an identity, it is the root cause of so much suffering. And that is that I am separate to life, that I am just this one individual having this experience, and I have to figure it all out. I have to control it. If I don't do the thing, it won't happen. Seeing everything as separate, seeing life as separate. And I'd say that's been one of the most profound realizations and experiences I've been gifted through meditation, is having the direct experience twice a day that, in fact, I have this individuality, I have this body, I have my humanity, and that is an important aspect of life. And it's not to ignore that or dismiss it or make it less than. And there is this much, much deeper experience. There is this universal experience. We said, Atma, the unified field, whatever that pure consciousness that is giving rise to all of life. And I am that. I'm part of life. I belong to life. And life is, in fact, this very knowable, relatable experience that I can be in relationship with. But nobody taught us that. We weren't generally given practices and knowledge of how to be with life and how to understand life. So instead, we create a lot of misperceptions, which creates a lot of stress in the body that then perpetuates these misperceptions and this separation. And we come to conclusions like, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, like life isn't safe, I have to control everything, life's just a flop, life's hard. And that can be an experience at points, and it's a worthwhile experience to go through, and the challenges and the suffering that we all experience. It generally, a lot of the time, the gift of that is that it brings us back to that deeper understanding. There has to be more here, and maybe we discover that along the way.
Wow. And what would you say to someone who's maybe like just starting to step into this space, and they have a sense of a curiosity, maybe they haven't done meditation much at all, maybe they've heard about it. What would you say to a person in that situation if they wanted to go a bit further with things?
Do it. Jump in, lead with curiosity and have an open mind, and, to know that there's no final outcome. There's no final point of making it, of like, oh, I'm a successful, fully healed human. Great, I've done it. Check that off the to-do list. But to step in and see it as a beautiful process of self-discovery and go, great, what can I learn along the way? What can I learn about myself? What more is here? Just curiosity, openness, see what happens, and let go of any kind of outcome orientation. Just enjoy the process of it.
Amazing. And for someone who would like to do Vedic meditation or to work with you, what would that look like?
Yeah, so I'm part of a collective, we call ourselves. I work with my beautiful sister and beautiful friend, and who was my original teacher, Sarah and Laura. Those are their names, and we run a collective called Mahasoma. And we only teach Vedic meditation in person. So we teach. Laura's in Noosa, Sarah's in Melbourne, I'm in Castlemaine. I also teach in Melbourne. I also teach in Adelaide, sometimes in Bali, sometimes in India. So there's lots of avenues to come and learn in person. But if we're not in your location, still reach out and we can put you in contact with someone who hopefully may be. But first of all, it's coming along and learning Vedic meditation, which is taught over a 4-day course. Day 1 is a one-on-one session. You receive your mantra for practice, and that's 1 hour. And then days 2, 3, and 4 are generally done in a small group, and we start to expand on this thing called meditation, what experiences to expect, all of the practical side of it, while also weaving in Vedic wisdom around the nature of consciousness, thoughts, all of these wonderful things, so that at the end of that 4 days, you feel really confident in the practice. But as I mentioned earlier, it's not the last time you see us. There's a big community support around you. So that would be the first step. And I also offer just free discovery calls online, which you can book in on our website. If you have questions, you just want to chat to me a little bit more, get to know me before you do that. But that would be step 1, learning Vedic meditation. And then from there, we offer free weekly group meditations that are a really beautiful way to stay connected, stay inspired, expand your practice, as well as advanced knowledge courses, retreats, all kinds of things.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I feel like there's we could have gone a lot deeper in a number of different directions, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's okay. We keep it the way it is, and yeah, appreciate you coming on.
great. You're welcome. Maybe we can do part two sometime. There's a skill to being a podcast host, and you can go down many rabbit holes. So I feel like we covered a nice breadth of topics today. So thank you for guiding that for us.
My pleasure. All right. I'll see you later.
Great. Thanks a lot, Nick.